contemporary issues. However, over the years, it has emerged as a popular non-governmental organization which has President of India, several former prime ministers, parliamentarians, civil servants, judges, and professionals as its members. The divergent background of speakers adds to the rich texture of the society. Since 1987, we have organized more than 335 functions. The slackness in number of functions came in the COVID times. We are hopeful that if the situation improves, we will try and organize another function next month for our previous awardees. We would have been a complacent organization had it not been for our chairperson, Justice A.K.Patnaik, under whose dynamic leadership we are always encouraged to think of something new. His ideas and Dr. Sethi's persuasive workaholic style make it possible for us to think out of the box. Justice Patnaik needs no introduction. He has been the Chief Justice of High Court of Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, nominated as Chairman of Committee on Constituent Law and Allied Subjects. He was conferred the degree of doctorate from Utkal University. We are glad he is amidst us. I would request him to kindly welcome our guest for today, the Attorney General of India, Shri K.K. Venugopal, the Chief Legal Advisor to the Indian government. Sir?
Yes. Thank you, Chan. Am I audible? Am I audible for all of you? Yes. You see, it's really my privilege to introduce and welcome Mr. K.K. Venugopal, the President Attorney General of India. Now, I've known Mr. Venugopal since 1980s. When I first came to the Supreme Court, the first thing I had in the Supreme Court, I had two very powerful counsels appearing before the court then. One was Mr. Nariman, young then, and the other one Mr. Venugopal. But when I saw them performing courts, I found that one was entirely different from the other, but both were effective as counsel. Mr. Nariman was forceful, right, hammering, and sometimes very loud, right. Contrast was Mr. K.K. Venugopal, who was very gentle in his ways, very persuasive, very pleasant, and he would also get the same orders, very good orders from the court. So I was really impressed with the two styles of advocacy that was prevailing in the Supreme Court, and I went back. I didn't know which one to adopt because I was a practicing advocate there, right? But it's very difficult to adopt one style or the other once you develop rules and style, and gone too late now into the practice. So I continued my own advocacy. When I became a judge in 1994 and was posted in Guwahati High Court, I heard Mr. Venugopal delivering a law lecture, remember law lecture in Guwahati. And at that time, I found the most impressive part of his personality was his young looks, absolutely youthful, right? Not a hair on his head, which is grey, right? And wearing a full sleeve, colorful shirt, right? That was another aspect of Mr. Venugopal. And we were very impressed. We had a dinner in a hotel after that, and we had a very pleasant talk with him. And the first thing that I asked him, sir, have you left smoking? He said, oh my goodness, isn't it treacherous habit? And thank God, I have almost left it now, right? Now, I was transferred back to Orissa High Court in 1994, in 2002. And I had the occasion to introduce him as the law lecturer in memory of my senior, erstwhile senior Mr. V.R.Krishna. He had come to deliver a memorial lecture. I was then a judge, a senior judge in the side. And I introduced him to the gathering. And same thing I said. that Mr. Venugopal has a distinctive style of advocacy, which is all different from others, different from Mr. Nariman, different from others, very persuasive, very nice. And I recall he having delivered a wonderful lecture on some constitutional topic, I don't remember what. And then that was followed by a dinner at my place. He joined in the dinner, we had a very pleasant evening. When I became a Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court, he never appeared before us in Madhya Pradesh, right? But we traveled together to South Africa. And there as part of the delegation from India, led by Chief Justice V.R.Krishna. And it was all about a comparison between the South African Constitution and the Indian Constitution, right? And particularly the social justice part of it. And I remember listening to Mr. Venugopal. He was one of the speakers from the Indian side. He spoke wonderfully well, very nice, right? And when I spoke also, after my speech, he walked up to me and said, "You spoke very well to me." That is another quality that he complimented some speaker who may not be as good as him, but as very good, right? And then, finally, when I was posted in the Supreme Court as a judge, I got to hear and watch his real advocacy. He argued the election appeal with the bench player Justice Kabir and myself from Kerala. And that time I did not do much of that election appeal. I had done a lot of election cases as an advocate. But on conversion from what you call from Christianity, from Hindu to Christianity and back to Hindu, right? That was the case all about. And he educated us, both of us, very well on the subject. And ultimately, I wrote the judgment and it went in his favor, in favor of the Congress candidate from Kerala, who was exiled by the Kerala High Court. And then one matter came for us when I was presiding, which was an admission matter from private colleges. They had a judgment from Rajasthan High Court, right? In that case, he argued that no, without a law, you can't have a quota in the private colleges, reserved quota in the private colleges. Initially, I was against his views, but gradually he persuaded me, citing the judgments to TFI judgments and all those judgments, to convince us that no, without a law, you can't enter into the reservation quota of what you can prescribe reservation quota just by legislative order, right? And that judgment again went in his favor. Though initially I was against his views. And I remember during the last stages when he argued an appeal in international arbitration, which had come from Bombay Court. And the subject was absolutely new. The question was whether in a matter like fraud, where there are allegations of fraud, the arbitrator can enter the field, or it should be left to the court. The Bombay High Court said no. When it comes to a fraud or allegations regarding fraud, right? Then the arbitrator goes out, right? It has to be determined by the court, and that is on the basis of some judgments, of course, earlier judgments. And Mr. Venugopal was able to persuade us by taking to the specific provision of the arbitration agreement, which said even fraudulent matters, right, fraudulent allegations can be entered into and decided by the arbitration, international arbitration. Right. Again, that judgment, there's quite popular judgment, off-site judgment, and it was involved the BCCI also, right? And that matter again, he was able to persuade and take the judgment from us. That is Mr. Venugopal's advocacy, par excellence, right? This which I have witnessed myself in the Supreme Court. Now, when it came to the 107th birth anniversary of Justice Krishna, I thought that Mr. A.K. Venugopal would be the most suitable and rightful choice. Why? precisely because he has known Mr. Krishna, Justice Krishna, personally. He has appeared before him in many matters. And he must be knowing what type of thinking, juristic thinking he must be having. And most important is, Justice Krishna was a Padma Vibhushan. And Mr. K.K. Venugopal is a Padma Vibhushan. Rightly matched. The speaker and the persons whose birth anniversary is being celebrated. So with these words, I think Mr. Venugopal will be able to speak on the subject of Krishna on the occasion of the 107th. I welcome and introduce Mr. Thank you.
Thank you. May I speak now?
Yes, please.
This is Patnaik, Shri Vinod Sethi, my colleagues at the bar, eminent persons who I find here, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is my lucky day. I heard so many good things about me being said, whether right or wrong, I don't know. And Justice Patnaik has so many memories for the past. And I think this is a day which is fulfilled. I'm happy to be here in connection with the 107th birth anniversary of one of the greatest jurists that this country has produced. This is Krishna Iyer. His achievements were so many and is so often talked about that it seems almost facile to list them out in praise. But let me just point out to the audience that Justice Krishna Iyer retired in November 1980, or 40 years ago, and yet we still debate, discuss, and rely upon his judgments as if they had been delivered just a few days, 2 years. That's because those judgments still hold the field and has laid down law for the posterity. There is a timelessness to the impact that Justice Iyer had, and I believe it is a mark of true greatness. I am reminded of a quote, and let me quote, it was a boast of Augustus, and these are what he has quoted, that he found Rome of brick and left it of marble. But how much nobler will be the sovereign's boast when he shall have to say that he found law dear and left it cheap, found it in a seal book and left it in a living letter, found it the patrimony of the rich and left it the inheritance of the poor, found it to be the two-edged sword of craft and oppression, and left it the staff of honesty and the shield of innocence. These words are quite apt so far as Justice Krishna's philosophy was concerned. Today, many lawyers and law students talk of public interest litigation as if it was something natural and to be taken for granted. But what must be remembered is that it was not so. It took an innovative and brave thinker, motivated by a higher cause, to read into the Constitution powers which perhaps the judges of the Supreme Court did not believe that they possessed. Of course, today, it's my personal opinion that the judges have far exceeded what the Constitution founders ever believed should be the rightful role of the Supreme Court of India. If you look at the fact that there is no sphere of human endeavor into which the judges have not entered into, and they do not have their own opinions, which they convert it into law. But that is beside the point. And so far as I know for a fact, that even a giant justice such as Justice Bhagavati never had any hesitation in recognizing Justice Krishna as a father of PIL, and indeed regarded him as a guru. And Justice Krishna And Justice Bhagavati once said about Krishna Iyer, if there is any one single individual who has influenced me in shaping and strengthening my ideological base, it is Justice Krishna Iyer. In fact, I know several judges of the Supreme Court of India, such as D.I. Desai, Justice D.I. Desai, Justice Chinnappa Reddy, and other stalwarts who regard Justice Krishna Iyer as their guru. I remember appearing before Justice Krishna Iyer in the Socialist Dal case. That was about the reservation in favor of the scheduled castes. And it was my misfortune to appear against them. And at a certain stage during my arguments, Justice Krishna Iyer turned to me and said, Venugopal, you have to pay for the 5,000 years of oppression for which you are responsible of these scheduled castes. And I looked in surprise at him and said, 5,000 years, I was never there. How can I be responsible? Then he explained that it was people like me, according to him, who was responsible for the harassment, for the suppression of this class, who otherwise should have gained an equal status along with the rest of society. But ever since that day, it went deep into my heart, and I have never appeared in a single case against the scheduled castes thereafter. I thought that it was just what he said. As soon as Justice Krishna started speaking, however, you could hear the deep concern that he felt for the people who suffer from poverty and deprivation in the countries of South Asia. In a deep and passionate voice, he would bemoan the fate of the women of our countries who, due to the indifference of a careless government, had to have use of public street for their morning rituals. He would condemn our governments which are indifferent to the fate of the poor, the ignorant, and the disadvantaged sections of society who number in millions in society. When he spoke on any stage, would be thunderous. And when he finished, the judges of the Supreme Court of the host country and the lawyers would crowd around only one man, Justice Krishna Iyer. I was with him in Dhaka, where SARC was celebrating their annual get-together, where all the judges of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh were present. And I remember the president, who was a lawyer previously, wanted to meet him, and he wanted me to accompany him. And that was a great regard that people had for Krishna Iyer. And you would find all the judges and the senior lawyers all crowding around him to bask in the glory of his presence. Justice Krishna Iyer is unique. Not only was he perhaps one of the greatest judges to ever occupy the benches of the Supreme Court of India, he had been also a politician in the government of EMS Namboodiripad, holding the important portfolios of the Minister of Law and Home, and had been also a member of the Law Commission of India. When he assumed office as the Minister of Law in the Communist government of Kerala, he charted ways and means for the poor and the weak to obtain legal assistance. And when he became a member of the Law Commission, he was appointed chairman of a committee which extended free legal aid to the indigent and the weak. The report that he submitted became the foundation for the National Legal Aid Scheme for India. In the report, Justice Krishna Iyer stated, the spiritual essence of a legal aid movement consists in investing law with a human soul. Its constitutional core is a provision of equal legal service as much to the weak and in want as to the strong and affluent. And the dispensation of social justice through the legal order was the rule. The political thrust of the moment is that if legality lets down the masses and protects in actual working only the upper bracket, anti-law will become the way of life of the numerous poor. The people being prone to seek justice in the streets in preference to the law in the courts. His imagination was tremendous, and the imagery with which he would write and these judgments was something which was superb and unbeatable. It was therefore a great politician, but more than a politician, a great judge. But more than that, I was surprised to learn that he could play the veena and was also a sportsman during his younger days. His success in the Supreme Court as not only an erudite judge, but also an innovator, was born out of the vast experience garnered by him from the different offices which he held throughout his career. When he delivered the historic decision on Article 21 in Maneka Gandhi case, Justice Krishna overruled comprehensively the restrictive interpretation placed by the Supreme Court of India on Article 21 in A.K. Gopalan's case. He said, quote, "The spirit of man is the root of Article 21. Absent liberty, other freedoms are frozen. What is fundamental is life and liberty. What is procedural is the manner of its exercise. The quality of fairness in the process is emphasized by the strong word established, which means settled firmly, not wantonly, not whimsically. If it is rooted in the legal consciousness of the community, it becomes established procedure, and law leaves little doubt that it is normally regarded as just, since law is the means and justice is the end." Excuse me. With these words, Justice Krishna expanded the scope of Article 21, holding that the freedom of movement is a very essence of the article. He further stated, India because Indians, our ancients, had journeyed through the wide world for commerce, spiritual and material, regardless of physical or mental context. In this precious heritage, free trade in ideas and goods, association and expression, migration and homecoming, now crystallized in fundamental human rights, is alleged to be hamstrung by hubristic authority. My sensitivity lifts the veil of silence. Such is my justification for breaking judicial lockjaw to express sharply the juristic perspective and philosophy behind the practical necessities and possible dangers that society and citizenry may face if the clauses of our Constitution are not boosted with court action when a charge of unjustified, and listen to this, unjustified handcuffs on free speech and unreasonable fetters on right of exit is made through the executive power of passport impoundment. Another landmark decision of the Supreme Court, which I recently recalled, was his decision in Municipal Council Ratlam, where he started the activist approach to environmental protection even before the enactment of the Environment Act. He held that a magistrate can compel the municipality to make drains and improve sewage, affecting the health and convenience of the residents under Section 133 of the Criminal Procedure Code. He further held that this section permits enforcement of civic rights and municipal law, where neglect has led to public nuisance, and permits affirmative action to abate the nuisance on a time-bound basis by issuing specific directives. What has been surprising me is this. There is this Section 133 in the the Criminal Procedure Code. There is a corresponding provision in the Civil Procedure. Both these say that if public authorities violate their duties, as a result of which persons are subjected to any deprivation of rights, life or liberty, out of the life, or are injured, then in such a case the magistrate can issue a prohibitory order and can even frame charges against them. This is there in both the Civil Procedure Code to take preventive action and in the Criminal Procedure Code also. But we read day after day as to what is happening all over this country. People die because of the potholes. Their scooter goes through a pothole and they fall, and a bus runs over them. There are big drain holes through which children fall and die. And not a single writ is filed, not a single case is filed, either under the Criminal Procedure Code or the Civil Procedure Code, to bring the municipal corporations to book. And this is Krishna had set the bar as to what should be done a long time back in the Ratlam municipality case. Therefore, I think the lawyers who are doing pro bono service should take this up. They are doing a great injustice to the people of this country, where so far as they are concerned, they have the tools and the weapons by which they can bring these municipal corporations to book and to ensure that they do not allow these sort of conditions where people die on account of their negligence. And I, for one, I have decided that when I retire from this office, I would organize legal aid throughout in the cities, where I would call upon my friends to help, and I myself would cooperate for the purpose of ensuring that the municipalities and public utility services don't get away with what I would say is murder. Now, this is prison justice was one of Justice Krishna's forte. Step by step, he neutralized the oppressive regime imposed by the colonial rulers of the past. Bar fetters required the prisoner to move like a crab with shackles on his legs, with his hands behind his back with a bar going through. This by itself was an additional punishment to the imprisonment meted out. Justice Krishna had no hesitation in outlining this antiquated and barbaric custom, and so too with restrictions which made life difficult for the prisoners themselves. And in Sunil Batra, he said, where injustice verging on inhumanity emerges from hacking human rights guaranteed in Part 3, and the victim beseeches the court to intervene and relieve, the court will be a functional futility as a constitutional instrumentality if its guns do not go into action until the wrong is righted. The court is not a distant abstraction, omnipotent in the books, but an activist institution, which is a cynosure of public hope. Therefore, I could go on, and any number. And so far as Justice Krishna is concerned, he's not merely a legend, but he, I think, is the very soul of the Constitution. It is impossible to state exhaustively all the contributions that Justice Krishna has made to protect the human rights of all Indians. He has been a tireless crusader for social justice and has managed to invest the law with a soul. The critics may say that his prose is difficult to understand, or his judicial pronouncements have caused the fabric of the common law to fray and unravel. But his approach to the law has been premised on the law being a living organism that must change and grow to meet the new and changing circumstances of our time. How many of us can truly, honestly look back on our lives that we have lived and say that we have made a difference? Justice V.R.Krishna has spent decades making a difference, and we are all bereft by his absence. And I think we would look forward to many more Krishnayas in the future. We have, and Justice Patnaik himself has had a extremely active and excellent period of his judgeship in the law. And even the Supreme Court has been calling upon him from time to time to assist the Supreme in matters where his executive powers had, the powers had to be executed. And this has made a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was really nice to see that how Justice Iyer has inspired all of us, and the tribute you offered to him was really heart-touching. Now I would request Mr. Venkatramani to offer the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
General, for being with us today, even though we are on the virtual screen. I mean, Capital Foundation has been rendering a wonderful job of keeping alive Justice Krishna Iyer's memory and life amongst the legal fraternity. It is not only through the awards which are being given away year after year to the persons carefully chosen, but ever trying to connect Justice Iyer creatively to the flowing stream of administration of justice that is worthy of mention. The learned Attorney General, youthful and fresh in his mind and body as ever. I met him 1979 for the first time when I landed in Supreme Court, and I think I have grown old, but not he. And he had severed a long association with Justice Iyer, much longer than many of us. Of course, he is therefore preeminently equipped to talk about Justice Iyer, and he's being an architect of a new Supreme Court of India post-emergency era. And we are indeed thankful to him profoundly for being with us today and sharing with us those storehouse and chronicles of Krishna Iyer on the bench and off the bench. And it's refreshing to be taken back the times and role of Justice Iyer being, as I tell, the bold architect of the new Supreme Court, the truly People's Court of India it has become today. When the learned Attorney General was speaking, I remember a few lines I wrote on Justice Iyer when he turned 99 years, and with the permission of the learned audience here, let me just read it. I quote, "When minds unite in common themes and weave fabrics of dreams for human weal, all distances melt. And such a melting pot your life has been. Those weak in power, your meanings made strong. Those crying in silence saw bridges with your visions. Law in your hands was alchemy of sorts, and justice in robes was the dictionary of mosaic parts. The constant search and the ceaseless thirst to see all humanity in equality walk and in dignity dance your long march has Lilliputans like me to script stories of constitution for the poor and compassion towards all." Therefore, I thank the learned Attorney General for just triggering this little memory in my mind and to be shared with the learned audience here today. We are indeed fortunate to have Justice Patnaik, a judge with sterling qualities, as our captain, to be ever ready to guide Capital Foundation in all its endeavors, to keep connecting the name and memories of great judges of the Supreme Court by its annual events. Capital Foundation has done a remarkable work that way, and we look forward to Justice Patnaik's guidance for as long as one would fondly wish. The online event is no substitute for the warmth and bonhomie of a physical meet and the energizing award events. We wish that you could organize the next event more colorfully to compensate for all that you not had in the past few years. And just to complete a word of thanks, it cannot be a speech by itself. How do you really place a person who had played all possible roles in public life? Which roles bountifully made available to Justice Krishna Iyer and not so to many other judges and public figures? This divine presentation of the bouquet of opportunities to Justice Iyer being so unique, he was unique as a consequence. He could have simply ended by being a great judge like John Marshall, Justice Holmes, Cardozo, or Lord Denning, or any one of the contemporary judges. He chose to use the office of the judge to propound visions of global humanity and citizenship. While those other judges were great figures in their own times and added new strengths and meaning to the judicial process, they were doing so within what one may call the domestic frontiers of their country. Justice Iyer, however, blended the wisdom of India from shining through ages with a fresh human rights flood of thought from the West. And we are indeed thankful to the learned Attorney General for capturing all that mosaic parts of Iyer through his sharing of thoughts today with us. So let us end this note of remembering Iyer. I think we will have more and more events where, hopefully, with the younger generation of the legal fraternity and the academic, entering the most complex set of events in the administration of justice and be able to handle them maturely in the wise way as Justice Iyer would have envisioned. Let me thank all the audience who are present here today, learned and in their own way and accompanied in their own way, for being part of this virtual event. And let's all meet as early as possible at a most colorful physical event, as I said. Thanks for your attention. Thankful once again to the Attorney General.
I may just add one thing. The Attorney General is one of the oldest members of the Capital Foundation since 1988. He also delivered a Capital Foundation annual lecture and received Justice Krishna Iyer Award. We've been requesting him, and the chairman told me today that you must make a formal request that he must accept the Lifetime Achievement Award in our next function. We'd be very grateful, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
With this, the meeting comes to an end. Thank you very much. Thanks to the rest.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Parekh.
Justice Parekh.
Thank you, Dr. Venugopal-Ag.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Always a treat listening to.
Thank you, Dr. Sethi.
Thank you, Dr.
Good evening,
Sethi.
Parekh Saab.
Good evening to all.
Thank you,
Good
Dr.
evening, Mr.
Sethi.
Chandra.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Amarjeet Singh Chandok ji, salute to you. Praveen Parekh ji, salute to you.
Professor Pushpendra Reddy,
Very well
Mr. Ganesh,
organized, Dr.
Chandru.
Venugopal-Ag.
Thank you very much, sir.
God bless you.
Brief but crisp.
Crisp, to the point. But very, very, very enlightening, I should say. Very, very enlightening.
Good to see you, Mr. Parekh.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sethi.
My pleasure.
Sethi ji,
Yes,
shall I?
Mr. Reddy, thank you very much,
Sethi ji, good evening.
sir. Good evening.
Yeah, I'll end the live now. But entire country was looking towards a message on corporations. I mean municipal corporations and municipalities. Big take of this meeting, believe me. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Right, Mr. Reddy, thank you very much.